Got a VCR to work on today. This one here is a Quasi S-VHS. What that means is it'll play back a Super VHS tape, but it is not a Super VHS machine. It only records in standard VHS, but it can play back standard and Super VHS, which is different than JVC's VHS ET, which let you record Super VHS quality on a regular tape. This is not that. This is a Sharp VCH820 VHS hi-fi machine. Has 19 micron heads, and it has S-VHS Quasi playback. So what that means is that this machine can play a Super VHS tape, be it at standard quality. It will not have an S-video output or anything, it's just got composite, but it will play, and it won't record Super VHS, but it will play a Super VHS tape. And the Super VHS tape should play back at better than VHS quality, although not to the same type of quality that a real Super VHS machine would play back at using a proper S-video connector. But it should still look better than a regular VHS tape, and it will play a Super VHS recording on a Super VHS tape. This one here has got a bit of a problem. It's just sitting there with the power light flashing and nothing else. So we're going to take this one apart and see if I can get this one running. For all of you that want to see VCR repair videos, here we go. I don't think I've done one on a Sharp before, or if I have, it's been a long time. I do have to admit, when I was in the business, I did not see a lot of Sharp product because it wasn't a brand that we sold. And therefore, according to the salespeople that sold Sony and Panasonic, everything that we didn't sell was junk. So if somebody walked in with a Sharp VCR, they were always trying to sell them something new as opposed to repair it. So we didn't see a lot of Sharp machines. But looking at this thing right now, it looks like the guides are not fully retracted. Hopefully we can get this one going. And then we can try it out playing back an SVHS tape. Whenever I work on a VCR, I always consider mechanical problems first and foremost, because that generally is what the problem is mechanical problems. So I just check to see if things are moving like they should. Since the mechanism is not retracted and it won't turn on, oh, now the power light's not even flashing. Let's just see if I try to load a tape, if I try to move the mechanism here, whether it will do anything. Probably won't. That was weird. The power light stopped flashing on this thing when I plugged it back in. I unplugged it, like I shut off the power to take the top off it. And now the power light stopped flashing. It's almost like that thing went through the motions that time. I'm curious as to whether it's a mode switch problem on this unit. And maybe that's all that's wrong with it. I'll just try powering this thing up again. Yeah, see, it's not flashing now, and if I press power, it turns on. Whereas when we first looked at this thing, it wouldn't turn on and it just had the light flashing. It's a good thing I got a recording of that. I'm going to pull the chassis on this unit just because I want to clean that mode switch. It's likely causing problems. Because that is the most common problem on VCRs, is the mode switch. Most of these machines haven't been used in a long time, so they've sat around, you know, maybe sitting under someone's TV, or they put them in their basement or in the attic or wherever people were storing their old machines. The machines were left to sit, and when a VCR sits around, things like the mode encoder switches, the the contacts tend to oxidize a bit, and once that happens, they no longer make a proper electrical contact, and the microcontroller doesn't receive the correct input, then things happen. So you can see what other screws have to come out on this thing. That might be it. So looks like they stuck another screw in the back here, a black one, that's securing the chassis and the circuit board in place. So I'll just remove this one. And now this whole thing should lift out, board and all. Great hang-ups here that can easily break that board if you're not careful. But here's the prize. Now I can unplug things like the heads so that I can actually remove the unit from the circuit board. So we'll unplug the head motor there. We can unplug it here as well, and this other one can be unplugged from the board there. Now I should be able to lift the chassis off, which I can, and there we have the guts to it, the chassis. This one doesn't have a mode switch. Interesting, it's optical. Check that out. Optical sensors. So on here, you'll see that there are cutouts in the cam gear here. If I get a close-up, you'll see that there are cutouts for an infrared signal to shine between two sensors. On here, there's actually two different timing marks. There's an inner and an outer ring. This is what signals the machine. So that's interesting. It's interesting as to why this thing wouldn't start up when I initially turned it on, but this mechanism actually is quite good. I like that. Although these optical sensors certainly have caused problems in the past. Sometimes they will fail, but and this big LED here on the board, this is the one that's the main LED for the infrared, for the tape end sensors. These can sometimes go bad, and sometimes the switch over here, the record lockout switch, will go bad, but other than that, this actually looks to be quite good. So I don't know why this thing was not initially working. Maybe our ESR is a little bit high on some of these caps in the secondary of the power supply. That may have been what was causing the problem. A little too much ripple initially, and then once they were powered up, they kind of reformed. Let's just check them. Got the ESR meter here. So this one, I'm checking them in circuit. This one's measuring 0.2, and this is a, what is this thing? 470 at 35. So 470 at 35 should be okay. This, see, it's showing the maximum rating for a new 470 35 volt capacitor should be 0.09. So we should see less than that, and we are seeing 0.22. What about this other one here? What is it measuring? Measuring 0.30. 0.31. So that could have been the issue. Cap or two in here. I'm going to see if I can find some new ones. Maybe we'll swap these out, and we'll see how it if it works. It's the only thing I can think of is we may have an open cap here. So let's get working on that. We'll start by just changing this big 470 here. As this is my machine, so I just want to see if I can get it to work. See what I can dig up to replace this one. It's a Rubicon that's in here. See what I can find. Okay, I've got another one here. I just pulled out of another board. It's another Rubicon, same size. Yeah. So 0.05. 0.05, 470 at 35. There's we go. 0.09 is what's considered to be the worst case scenario for a new capacitor. So this one here is well within rating for this one. So let's put this one back in the unit. Clean up that board a bit here. Get that solder out of that hole. I just pulled this out of an old TV. That TV that had the broken screen. Well, now the board's not complete. I pulled that out of that board. I'm going to try this now and see whether it works. If I can figure out how to put this thing back together. Where does it go? This goes in like this, I think. Oh, it goes under there. That would explain why. It should plug in. There's a couple of plugs on this board that have to line up. I'm going to line up the plugs on the for the erase head and for this what is this? This little switch over here, I guess. Oh, for the loading mode. I'm going to line up those plugs, and then we can insert the other plugs back here. Put the screws in to hold the board in place, and then we'll test this thing and see if it does anything. I'm thinking possibly what the problem was the ESR on that cap was just a little bit high and the voltage wasn't coming up properly. Oops, These screws go in after. Okay, power comes on now. No blinking light. Plug it into the good old monitor here and we'll load up a tape and see if it does anything. So we'll start out with my good old Bose tape. And it plays. Excellent. We're going to try a Super VHS tape in here too. So there's playback of a regular VHS tape. So this tape says Vancouver Aquarium. I would have recorded this myself, and I probably recorded all this. Oh, some stuff was to come off of Laserdisc. So some stuff, the SeaWorld and Magic Mountain stuff, I think came off of Laserdisc. They were from a sales video. But the aquarium stuff, I believe I shot that part myself. So let's see how it plays back a Super VHS tape. My old company. That was when I first started out. Holy smoke. This would have been shot, this was shot with a Panasonic PVS 350. That was a full-size Super VHS camera. I don't know if there's any sound. It might be just the natural sound. Nope, it's got sound dubbed on it. So this is probably a second generation copy, I would think. If it's in hi-fi, it might be linear audio, but I can't let it play because of the copyright. But these were the cheesy effects that this camera could do in camera. So that was all done in the camera. It could do cross dissolves and tacky wipes. Had a flying erase head. All the effects were done in camera on this. In fact, this may not be in hi-fi sound. It may be just linear audio. This doesn't seem like it has a hi-fi light. Does it tell me? It may be dubbed. This may be second generation. It probably is second generation. But it still looks pretty good. See? It would give you a freeze frame and then it would dissolve over. It was really ridiculous. They would advertise these as, professional cameras, and you could do all your transitions and stuff. And the camera had flying erase heads. It could do video dubbing and it could do audio dubbing in the camera. But you always got that. It did nice dissolves, but it would do it as a freeze frame, which would be fine if you were taking pictures of things that were not moving, such as doing still photos. It was great for doing slideshows from photos because you're just taking an image, right, of a still photo, and then you'd pause it and change the photo and frame it up and then hit your record button, and it would do a nice transition over from one photo to the next. But when you were actually filming things that moved, it would freeze for a couple seconds and then dissolve. So it was kind of a useless feature, although I'm sure people did use them for recording in the field. In fact, I know they did, because my first business partner that I had way back, so when we changed the company name, he was shooting with a camera just like it, and he kept shooting with that. And then I upgraded and went to beta, and the rest is history. Anyway, this machine seems to be working. Reverse search. forward search. 2 speeds at that. Go to fast forward. Yeah, that's working too. Rewind. Only thing left to do on this is to put a blank tape in. We'll make a test recording. And then I'll put this one back together and put it into storage. Maybe I'll sell it. They're not worth a heck of a lot of money, but I've sold a couple of VCRs over the past few months. I'd say this one probably has a little bit more value than a run-of-the-mill VHS, just because it has the ability to play back Super VHS tapes, as we just saw. To play back Super VHS tapes, it is going to be worth more to someone looking for a Super VHS machine and not wanting to pay the ridiculous prices that people are asking. I had a lady call me today with some beta tapes to transfer, and she was telling me she was looking at for a beta machine. She's got an old one that's broken. She might bring it down to me. We might try to fix it here. It's an old SL 5600 top loader. I told her if I can get the machine working, great. Otherwise, I'm going to do her tape transfers for her. But she was looking at beta machines, and she says, you know, they're going for like upwards of $1,000. $1,000 for a Betamax. Ridiculous, huh? So when I get her machine here, hopefully I'll get that in the next week or so. We'll see if we can get it working. Here's my test pattern. It's a test pattern video I made before, just so you can see how poor the resolution is. How you tell horizontal resolution is you look down here. Where it blurs, where the lines start to blur, that's your resolution. So about 230 lines or so, 220 lines of resolutions, what the VHS is capable of. And of course, that's the test pattern there that was shot. When I did that test on that tape, that was another machine that recorded, but that's the test pattern. Basically, just point a camera at it. I used a professional camera, not a HD. Well, it was an HD camera, but it was set for, I think, standard definition. And we just recorded that. That's how we did test tapes. That's how testing was done, right? They used a camera to pick up the signal, or a monoscope camera, which was a camera with the good old Indian head test pattern etched right in. It was like a CRT that had that etched right into it, and no pickup or anything. The beam would scan it, and it would hit the etchings and would change the voltage on the target, basically. It's like a camera tube, right? But another one was the B&K had their television analyst, which used it was kind of like a light purple, like a ultraviolet CRT. And they just scanned a blank raster, and they actually had a slide with that on it that went in front of this tube. And that would be picked up by a photomultiplier tube. But in TV stations, a lot of times they just take a picture of the good old, because that chart would give you your linearity for setting up your vertical, would show you your resolution, and it had your registration on it as well for checking the convergence. It's a great test signal. So we'll just make a recording here of my current aquarium. Well, at least how it looked when I made this video, when there was lots of fish in it. This is my aquarium. It's on my channel too, but that's my aquarium. When I had live coral and lots of fish, this was done probably 10 years ago. I've been waiting for the fish to slowly die off. I'm down to 6 now. I've still got the yellow tang, I've got the 2 clownfish, I've got a couple chromuses, I got the damselfish and some chromuses, and a couple clownfish still, and the yellow tang, which is, it's about that big now, I guess. It's about that big. He's huge. Been waiting for all the fish to expire, but some of these fish can live 30-40 years, so you know, it's not uncommon for a saltwater fish to live 30 years. The big blue one jumped out, found him lying on the top. There was a gap about I guess about 3 inches, one of the glass tops broke from the heat of the, I had metal halide lamps on it for the coral, and one of the lamps caused a hot spot on the glass, and the glass broke, and the glass fell into the tank. So I didn't have a glass cover, and wouldn't you know, in the time it took to get a new glass cover made, that big blue tang jumped and he landed on top of the other glass that wasn't broken in. Basically, I had a cooked fish. But that was my prize tank that I set up. I set it up about 20 years ago, I guess, or close to it. 16 years, maybe 17 years ago. And yeah, I've been slowly waiting for all the fish to die of old age so that I can decommission it and take it down, because I set this up when my kids were little, right? And they were all into the Finding Nemo thing and wanted this big saltwater aquarium. So I set it all up, and it was a beautiful tank for years, and I've got this video that I made of it. So when the tank is gone, I'm going to put up like a flat panel TV in place of where the tank was, and just play the video on it. It'll be like looking at the tank without having to clean it, without having to feed them, and with all of the noise of the water running all the time. But I've got the recording of the water running if I want to hear it. Anyway, I'm just making a recording here to test this thing out. This thing should be ready to play now. We'll see how this thing looks. Reverse search. Okay, there we go. Yeah, playback looks good enough for me. Looks like VHS. It's doing the job. That's it. This one's fixed. One capacitor in the power supply, I think, was what was ailing this one, as it wouldn't turn on initially, and then it did. And after replacing the cap, of course, it turned on right away. So I think we got it. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you in the next one real soon. Bye for now.